Good morning. I wonder what sort of day you have ahead. I wonder if you've got people that you need to connect with, or children you need to look after, or a job to do. Or does the day for you drag ahead as you look down or look ahead into it of another day in lockdown? Perhaps you struggle. How does your day start? How does it finish? We're with Jesus in John chapter 6, and in there are two of the signs that John has been getting us to see. They're a sign of Jesus feeding the 5,000 and him still in a storm and walking on the water. It's an incredibly busy day. There's so much in that day. Max Lucado has a great book called In the Eye of the Storm, and he puts it together. But you can do that yourself. Go through the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, who record the story, and you can begin to put it. Let me just see if we could walk it through together. 6 o'clock, Jesus wakes up in the morning, and with the news that his cousin John has been beheaded. Can you imagine the grief and the pain of that? And as he tries to get away alone, his disciples arrive back from a mission trip. And they're full, you can imagine, of joy and all that God has been doing as his disciples tell him of the story. And Jesus wrestles with grief, but also the wonder of companionship and the joy of what they've been involved in. And then as they begin to talk about this, it says that the crowd begins to gather. And I don't know what time this would be, but maybe by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, we have got all the people coming, and the disciples see Jesus, and he turns to them and begins to deal with the crowd, and as he teaches and heals. And Jesus, as he looks at his disciples, perhaps sees the exhaustion in them, and he says, "Come aside and rest a while. Let's go away." So they get into a boat and they begin to cross the Sea of Galilee. And I'm sure they're looking forward to just spending time alone with Jesus and just having a rest. But when they get there to the other side, a crowd has already beaten them there. And what does Jesus do? Jesus is Jesus. He has compassion. And he begins to teach and heal again. And disciples come to him as the afternoon wears on, and perhaps around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they say, "Jesus, it's a solitary place. Send them away to get some food." And Jesus says, "You feed them." And with 5 loaves and 2 fish, he feeds 5,000 plus people. And after he's fed them, what does he do? Well, he dismisses the crowd. And he says, "Disciples, you get into a boat." And maybe they get into a boat. And Jesus heads up into a mountain to pray. And as he prays, they're in the boats, and time is going on. By now, they should be across to the other side. Jesus, I'm sure, was going to walk there, but they still haven't got there. And the wind was against them. And as the time goes on, the doubts begin to come, and they begin to struggle. And it's 9 o'clock, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and still they're not there, and the wind is against them. And Jesus is the one that sent them out into the storm. Why isn't he here when we want him? And as midnight comes, and as time begins to creep on, doubt and worry and tiredness and strain and anger and frustration and hurt and helplessness, and it says, Jesus sees them. And I don't know how long he takes to get there, what he actually does, but it isn't until about 3 o'clock in the morning, nearly 4 o'clock in the morning, that Jesus comes. You know, sometimes God leaves us and waits for us to get to the end of ourselves, and they're right at the end of themselves, and he appears, and they see him as a ghost, or they think it's a ghost, and he says to them, "It is I, don't be afraid." He uses that great phrase, "Ego eimi," I am, and he calms the storm. The amazing story, of course, of how Peter walks on the water occurs within that, and then, of course, they get to the other side, and another day starts. And that day starts perhaps with exhaustion, like many of us feel, mixed emotions, glad, happy, surrendered, but also perhaps doubting and questioning. J. John said in one of his devotions this week, sometimes God calls, or should I say, calms the storm, but sometimes he lets the storm rage around us and calms his children. Calm the storm or calm his children. 2 bookends. May your day start today, whatever lies ahead, with "Come aside and rest a while with me," even in the storm. And may it end with "Don't be afraid, it is I." Lord, bless us today. May we know those truths of your comfort and strength and hope, and those words where you say, "Don't be afraid, it is I," in Jesus' name.